there, I want to acknowledge just what happened at the Masters this past weekend. There, as an American, there's nothing warmer than me seeing Rory McIlroy choke. Okay, and it was almost a very beautiful moment. You know, my wife and I, we shared a hug. We were like, "This is for America," and then what have you? He actually pulls through. All kidding aside, for the feelings I have for Rory, and for the feelings that many of you who also love golf might have for Rory, this was a big moment for him. He won the Grand Slam of golf, which is not a small achievement given the 11 other times he failed to do it. He is considered now one of the greatest golfers of all time, and I can't wait till next year when Bryson comes back with a vengeance and he takes back the American flag on top of that British hill and he brings it home. Guys, we have the mock draft NFL round 1 box scores and bourbon edition coming at you right now. All right,
Ding, ding,
Manny.
ding, 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 ding.
All
Welcome
right.
back, JB. Here is what I have to say about our intro to the NFL draft. NFL teams spend millions on millions of dollars paying for scouts and recruiting and seeing what prospects are going to be part of their team in the next year. All that millions of dollars for JB and I to be able to sit here and give you all the right choices for free.
That's right.
With that being said, we're going to jump right into our NFL draft with what? Here's the thing. We are going to talk about what we, as the almighty drafters of all 32 franchises, would do if we were in that position. Not what we think they will do, but what we think
But
what we
should
think they should
happen?
do.
What should
Right,
happen?
what should happen, which is going to lead to a very interesting draft. Oops.
Yes. All right. You're silent. I can't hear you. Nope. You turned off your speaker. Some technical difficulties here. You know what this is? This is the universe not wanting to hear Manny's picks. Oh, this is what you get. This is what you get. Where's your sound? Where is it? Stop drinking and find the sound. Where is it? Oh, I'm gonna light this puppy up. Little Alameda here. There you go. Nice. Now Manny's just frozen. Up. He gone. He was too scared to give us his picks. All right. Until he returns, and while I light this puppy up, this is how we decided who was going to pick what. We flipped a coin. Manny won the coin toss, and he got to choose odds or evens, and he chose odds. So, throughout the course of this whole first round, Manny will pick all the odd number teams, and I, JB, yours truly, will pick all the even number teams. And as soon as Manuel gets back on the screen, we can get started here. Still can't hear you. I don't know what you're doing. I can hear you now. You're back now. Okay.
All right. Okay. Technology is not my friend.
All right.
Ring us in.
I just cheers in. Cheers.
Cheers.
All of you watching. Clink clink.
Clink clink for all you audio listeners.
I explained to them the format, how we got to odds and evens.
Yep.
So, whenever you are ready, sir, go.
We are going to start our yearly draft with Manny making the number 1 pick. And let me know how you feel about this one. With the first overall pick, the Tennessee Titans select Abdul Carter, defensive edge out of Penn State.
I like
I
it.
know there's a lot of controversy. I know there's a lot of controversy about what Tennessee should do if they should trade that pick away. Looking at what the Tennessee Titans look like, they are not in a position to where they are a quarterback short from being an impressive team. So what you should do is take the best defensive edge available in the draft. We can see across the board in the NFL what a great dominant pass rusher can do
Hmm.
for your team. Even an irrelevant team could make you somewhat more relevant. So that is going to be my first overall pick for the Tennessee Titans.
Wow. Okay, you're already stepping on my toes. We just started. We just started. And you've already stepped on my beautiful, beautiful notes with your muddy boots. How dare you, sir? I told you to take those boots off outside. Don't track any mud on my floors. Okay, now that you've already trashed my entire draft with the first pick, and so I had Cleveland picking Abdul Carter because
Right.
even with Miles Garrett returning, they are still extremely slim on the pass rush front.
Mhm.
Hell, I mean their
Mhm.
entire defense is slim. So especially that front seven. So I had Abdul Carter going there and being paired with old Miles Garrett, and we, you know,
It
uh,
would make sense.
a fearsome twosome right there, being able to
It
have
would it
that.
would make
But
sense, but any team that would select Abdul Carter, it would make sense for them to pick him because he's so dominant. He's so good.
yeah, and you know what? If they picked Abdul Carter, it's reminiscent of when Tennessee picked Javon Curse all those years ago. And so, being able to, before you were born,
Yeah.
them being able to have that linchpin defensive end that can just wreak
Yep.
havoc in any offensive backfield. I mean, that's a solid pick. So,
Yep. Can't go wrong with it.
so with Manny, Manny's Tennessee Titans selecting who I had for the Cleveland Browns at number two, the JB Cleveland Browns are ready to announce their pick. With the second pick of the Box Scores and Bourbon NFL mock draft, round one, the Cleveland Browns select Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami. I
Wow.
I am not I'm not so sold on this quarterback class coming in here this year. I'm just not. If there was one guy that I could actually see succeeding in the NFL, it's Cam Ward. So Cam Ward came from a bunch of just high flying offenses, just shooting at the hip. Uh, Before he
Hmm.
came to Miami last year, Miami was really the first kind of taste he had at a pro style offense, and he defined himself as a winner. He was able to bring Miami up to the top at victories at the end of some of these games that they should have lost. Um, wasn't the best season at all. Didn't end the way Miami would have wanted it to, but that's not to say that Cam Ward can't succeed. And if we know anything about Cleveland, it's they will jump the bone of any quarterback that seems relatively attractive. So I've got Cam Ward going there. Kevin Stefanski, I think, can do great things with Cam Ward. He's an offensive minded guy. He can do stuff with Cam. They already had that offense shaped in order to help Deshaun Watson. Why can't it help
Hmm.
Cam Ward? So
Hmm.
so off the top, on my tippy toes, having been thrown into this uh, last minute because you stole my draft pick, I'm gonna have Cleveland take Cam Ward at number two.
That leaves the door wide open for a great, great player to fall on the lap of the third overall pick, New York Giants. So with the third overall pick, the New York Giants will then select Travis Hunter. as categorized as an athlete from Colorado.
Athlete.
When it comes to the Giants, the last thing I want to see them do is draft a quarterback. One, because you already have a lame duck GM and lame duck coach, and you don't want to put them in the position where they get to draft some quarterback that you eventually have to get accustomed to a new offensive system when you inevitably fire the head coach and the GM at the end of this season. So taking a player that, again, generational at the position, multiple positions for Travis Hunter, I think it makes the most sense. And as a lot of commentary is going for the New York Giants, they shouldn't take a quarterback this year because they should be playing the be awful for Archie in 2026. So Travis Hunter to the New York Giants is my pick.
I take exception to you calling Travis Hunter a generational talent on either side. I don't.
How dare you?
I don't think he's like if he was just a wide receiver. Uh, I honestly like I don't agree a lot with Ryan Clark. I think he's just a shorter version, maybe a taller version, but a louder one of Stephen A. Says a lot of stupid crap. But I do agree with him here where Travis Hunter, I do not see him as if he was just straight a wide receiver. He's not a Larry Fitzgerald. He's not a Randy Moss. He's not a Calvin Johnson. And even as a corner, he's not he's not going to be one of these shutdown corners like a Charles Woodson or a Rod Woodson or even a Champ Bailey. He's just I don't see him that way. I see the appeal in Travis Hunter being what he already did in Colorado, and him being able to leverage that skills or those skill sets to be this all around player in the NFL, being wherever you need him to be, which is not nothing. But I'll be interested to see what he decides. It says he's coming in as a corner. That's what he's
Yes, he
listed
is.
as a corner.
Yeah.
So
CBS has him listed as an athlete.
yeah, so um, I, I, I could see if he gets drafted by the Giants, I can see Malik trying to persuade him, hey, let's go, one side of another. Hey, let's wreak some havoc here. Okay, the New England Patriots are on the clock now. There were. Well, I'm going to announce my pick right now. With the fourth pick of the
We don't mess
2025
around here.
NFL BSB mock draft, the New England Patriots select Will Campbell, lineman from
Mm.
LSU. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of prospective mock drafts out there, and most of them have Will Campbell landing there. I have Will Campbell landing here, probably for the same reason most of these guys do. Is you just drafted this young quarterback. You were able to sign Stephon Diggs, regardless of what your feelings are for him. He can still produce when he's healthy, and so being able to now protect Drake May and keep him upright is of the utmost importance here. Being able to build a team in the trenches, and honestly, I don't see Mike Vrabel really having an issue with this. Mike Vrabel is one of the toughest SOBs that have ever played the game. And if there's anything that he loves more, it's being able to build a team from the inside out. So drafting the best available lineman here to be able to, probably more so protecting Drake at right tackle. That's probably going to be what I think the pick would be.
That's fair. So I actually had the Giants picking Will Campbell based off of my projections that Cleveland was actually going to bite on Travis Hunter. But I was ready to pitch you a trade for the New England Patriots pick. But
Oh,
by you, I wanted, I was thinking if Cam Ward was not taken in the first three picks, that the Jets should be calling New England to take that pick for them to take Cam Ward. So you blew up my
ooh.
mock draft a little bit
They got
by
Justin Fields. They're set. They're set quarterback. Sure.
we're good. We're good to go in New York.
They got Mr. Fields cookies out there. He's ready to go.
Well, moving on to the fifth overall pick, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars shall select Mason Graham, defensive lineman out of
Oh,
Michigan.
nice. All
Athletic,
right.
athletic build. 290. What's he coming in at? 296. So he's not necessarily a big lineman for the interior, but he's very athletic. He has great strength, and I think he has just enough to be able to cause some havoc for Jacksonville. And Jacksonville needs a whole lot of help, and starting with the game-changing defensive lineman is a good way to start rebuilding that franchise.
Yeah. I think that's a good pick. Um, I think the last time Jacksonville selected a DT this high was Tyson Alualau, who wasn't even like he wasn't on anyone's radar. And I remember the room audibly booed Jacksonville when they picked him because they're like, "Who the hell is this guy?" That was in 20. Was that 2000? That was 2009 that happened. I think they had the fourth pick, and that was such a reach. That was. I mean, you could probably get his jersey for a real good price at a Goodwill somewhere. But uh, other than that, there's really not much to say. But in this instance, I like the pick. Mason Graham
Yeah,
was one of those guys that he's not a sexy pick because he's a DT, but
yeah.
he can absolutely make your team better. He is
Mm-hmm.
he will uh, assuredly strengthen that D line for Jacksonville. Maybe try to keep the game close enough to where Trevor Lawrence doesn't have to keep showing his flaws as an NFL quarterback. So I like the pick. I think it's a solid pick. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I had Mason Graham even listed in my evens because I was like I'm fairly certain he's going to pick him for one of these other teams.
Yeah. And number five seems like a solid place for him to land with. And like I said, with Jacksonville, it just makes a lot of sense for them to take a good player instead of a flashy player, like making some crazy pick or trade to get some quarterback or Travis Hunter of like they don't need that kind of player. They need a solid player, and I think that's exactly what he brings to them.
Yeah. Moving on
You're
to the
up.
sixth pick, the Las Vegas Raiders
The
are
Raiders.
approaching the podium with the sixth pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft. The Las Vegas Raiders
The Las
select
Vegas.
Tatora McMillan, wide receiver.
Whoa.
So, uh, I like this kid from Arizona. I think he is going to be, for me, he is like one of the most surefire, if there ever would be, surefire round one picks in this year's draft. This dude is a number
You
one
mean aside
receiver.
from you mean besides Abdul Carter, right?
I said one of.
Oh, okay.
I said one of.
Okay.
So I
Okay. I
mean,
thought
Abdul
you
Carter is one of them. I said one of. So he is absolutely number one receiver. He's going to come in. He's going to transform any wide receiver room. And despite all, and look, this is me picking McMillan right now. Is me putting it out there in Raiderland. Okay, that maybe Brady and company would get off of this idea of maybe drafting Ashton Genty. I've got no problem with Genty going to the Raiders, but when your offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly, and we've all seen Chip open up the ground game by going vertical. That's what he did at Ohio State, and he was so good at it. You bring in you bring in McMillan. You have an automatic number one receiver. You have Trey Tucker, who has already shown that he can contest with the best corners out there. Jacoby Myers is out there. Brock Bowers is still as shorthanded as they come. And I know Vegas is kicking themselves for not having given Josh Jacobs his money. I get that. But for you to not select who not only what I think your biggest need is, but also best player available at this moment is the Tor
yeah.
McMillan. Bring him in. Bring him in. Capitalize on Gino's next 2 years. You already conceivably overpaid for a man to come be the quarterback of your team because the head coach is the one who gave him his resurgent opportunity, and now he gets to continue this resurgence in Vegas. Give him a player that, in my eyes, surpasses who Jackson Smith and Jigba was in Seattle, because he was the number one receiver the second half of last year for Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Geno connected well with him. Give Geno some vertical pieces so Chip can open up the ground game. And look, lo and behold, Travion Henderson is in this draft. There's not saying that Vegas can't go get Travion and then be reunited, and it feels so good with Chip Kelly up in Vegas. So McMillan, okay? The law firm of McMillan, and McMillan needs to go number 6.
Here's my thing about that pick with Las Vegas. I really like the Ashton Genty pick for them, and with you saying that Vegas wouldn't pick him, I feel like at that point the Genty will start falling. But it makes sense for me. It made sense for them to take Genty as a running back, even though they'd be picking a running back pretty high up, and that tends to not pay off pretty well. Genty gives different vibes, and Pete Carroll really likes operating under a running type of offense, and Genty just seems like the type of guy that can carry that type of offense. So I had Genty going to Las
I
Vegas.
did my homework on this. I went back 10 years. 10 years, all the way back to the 2015 NFL Draft. There were 5 running backs taken in the top 10. 5. 2015, it was Todd Gurley, who had a few good seasons before the injuries caught up with him. 2016 was the infamous Zeke Elliott at number 4 by your Dallas Cowboys. That worked out for a couple of years. Yeah. 2017, we all remember Christian McCaffrey getting drafted 8 by Carolina. I don't think anyone remembers Leonard Fournette going number 4.
Oh, yeah, with Jacksonville, yeah.
Leonard Fournette went number 4 that year.
He was pretty good. He took them to an AFC championship.
And then in 2018, it's the reigning Super Bowl champ Saquon Barkley was taken by the Giants. There's been no other in the last 6 years. None.
People got scared away seeing the Ezekiel Elliott crash and burn.
I get that. And look, and here's my argument for I was challenged today to step out of my old school football mind and be progressive in my thoughts about why you draft a running back at number 6. Here is how close I came to it. I argued it. I was putting my list together, and then I even wrote up Ashton Genty, and I wrote up why they should take him. And then I read it, and I said, this is dumb. The reason why I would take Genty is that Genty can be that thunder in the backfield. And the way that the offensive game now in the NFL is operating is more and more teams are going for it on 4th down. So if you need to get a couple yards, then okay, have a bruiser in the backfield. And then if that were to happen, I mean, Chip Kelly can make it work. He could open up the ground game by going vertical, even with just Trey Tucker and Jacoby and with Brock. He can make that happen. It's not implausible that you would see that. Trey Tucker already showed flashes of number 1 receiver, so you could go get Genty. My biggest thing, though, is that when it comes to selecting best player available and biggest need, I always go biggest need. And if the best player available fits the biggest need, then okay.
That's arguable. A lot of teams have started. I've seen a lot of teams find success by picking the best player available, no matter what the need is, and then building the offense around that and being adaptable to that. It works out pretty well for some teams. There's not too much to write home about, but even the Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb as a best pick available when they had a solid wide receiver room. That worked out pretty well for them, for their wide receiver room as a whole. It doesn't pay it off when it comes to record or accomplishments, but at the end of the day, that's up for interpretation depending on the team. Yeah, I just proved your point for you. Well, moving on With the seventh overall picks that I expected the New England Patriots to take, we now have the New York Jets on the clock, and we are ready for their pick. In the 2025 NFL Draft, BSB Sports Mock Draft 2.0, the New York Jets should take Armand Bembao out of
Armand
Missouri
Membo, you took my
offensive tackle.
guy. Dang you.
You took my guy. You took my guys. Armand Bembao, offensive lineman, New York Jets. You can't with the New York Jets where they are right now. You can't go wrong by starting to build a team from the inside out, and you can't get more inside of a team, inside a building of a team from the inside out, than starting with your offensive line. It makes sense. Armand is a big offensive tackle. He's 332 pounds. He can take up a lot of space, and he's very agile with what he does on the line. So the Jets, at least adding some solid pieces on the offensive line is not a bad way to start when it comes to the Aaron Glenn era with New York as the head coach. So I'm satisfied with that pick. I actually had them going. I had him falling to them in my original projection. So it sits perfectly with how I think the Jets should be operating. So that is what the New York Jets will be drafting this year. Will is a strong word. Should.
Wow. Okay, you did it to me again. Yeah.
Oops, I did it again,
I won't
JB.
have to immediately change my pick, but it will be coming here shortly. The Carolina
Okay.
Panthers are on the clock, and what you know, the Carolina Panthers have made their selection and are walking up to the podium. With the number 8 pick in the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Carolina Panthers select Jalen Walker, edge rusher from Georgia. So,
Wow.
Jalen Walker is a homegrown kid. I believe he grew up like a 30 minutes from Charlotte. This is an opportunity. And look, a lot of Jalen Walker is projection. A lot of it is what they see he can become. And this has been Jalen Walker's story the last 2 years at Georgia. If it's what you can see him becoming, and he's not disappointed. I mean, the dude's an absolute freak. But this is a need for Carolina. One, because they have a need in every position, but two,
Correct.
there is a need for an infusion of excitement in Carolina. And what better way than to be able to bring in a young disruptor like Jalen Walker, who can make crowds erupt with his Juilliard style movements into the backfield, sacking the quarterback and stripping the ball from the running back. This is going to be, and honestly, look, Dan Morgan, I think Dan Morgan looks at this and says, this is a great pick. This is a great pick of Carolina. This dude is Carolina. He's exciting. He is going to go out there and he is going to ball. He is going to really embody the just the work ethic, the toughness, and the enthusiasm that he's trying to bring back to Carolina.
Not only that, he's went to Georgia. Georgia has a very good tendency of creating very good uh,
Mm-hmm.
defensive players, especially on the line. You have to take that for granted. Not you can't take that for granted. You just have to look at the Super Bowl champ Philadelphia Eagles and see what they did when
Yeah,
pretty much drafted their entire defense based off
yeah.
of what Georgia was pushing out into the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, you can't go wrong with a player from Georgia nowadays with how that program is operating. I'm very satisfied with that pick. I actually had Carolina picking the Walker as well. But I have a question for you, JB. We're going to take a
Uh-huh.
step back. I have a question for you.
Okay.
How many times do you think at this point in the draft Shador Sanders would have been shown on TV as he sits in the green room? I want your over under.
As he sits in the green room, eh,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know how many times was Taylor Swift shown during the Super Bowl. What's the over under on that? Probably just as many. So, yeah.
Because the New Orleans Saints are on the clock
Oh,
and they are
no.
ready with their pick.
No.
And with the ninth overall pick,
You
the
are
New Orleans
a son of
Saints
a bitch.
are selecting Shador Sanders,
No!
quarterback out of
No!
Colorado.
No! I gave great consideration to Dallas. Great consideration. And you are just.
I think I'm giving great consideration to this. I a week ago, if we would have done the draft last week, I would have gone somewhere different. Derek Carr getting injured, you start seeing the tea leaves in the tea at the bottom. You start seeing the signs that a 35-year-old quarterback that consistently is getting injured, you can't really depend on him. If you want to start grooming a quarterback young when you have a $50 million quarterback on the books, might as well take one that's going to be flashy for the New Orleans area. Shador Sanders seems to fit the I don't know, the persona of New Orleans, and it makes sense for him to be able to sit a
The
year, maybe
persona
even
of
start
New
this year,
Orleans.
depending on how the year goes. If they bring in another veteran quarterback, but it makes too much sense that if Shador Sanders continues to fall, I can't see him falling past the New Orleans Saints, and they grab him, snatch him without having to reach for him at all. Well, I guess we would technically be reaching because some of the projections have him going lower, but it seems to make sense for him to land in a comfortable, cushy spot with the New Orleans Saints. JB, your thoughts?
Uh, my thoughts are you should be executed. That I let someone else reach for the kid. Let someone else reach for the stars. Okay? Reach for the Sanders. Okay? Let Pittsburgh do that. Why does it have to be me? Why do I have to suffer? And no, I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, look, the Shador really worked out. Blah. Like, we're all talking like this is real. But look, I got nothing against the kid. But 9? This
Yep.
is asinine that we do this. When any team reaches for a quarterback who we all well know is not deserve there you talked about best player available. There are 30 other best player available. You just shot your entire theory in the foot and then ran it over with your car when it was writhing in pain, tending to that shot foot. I don't even know. I don't want to hear anybody ever tell me, "Oh, I'll go after best player available," when all of these morons are out here selecting quarterbacks, reaching for quarterbacks, reaching. My
Are you
goodness,
calling me a moron, JB? Are you calling me a moron?
the shoe fits. Look, it's just no, no, no. And if it happens
Well,
next Thursday, I'm going to say this from my hotel room in Utah. No, no, not happening.
oh, I love it. I love that you have so much passion about Shador Sanders. It just goes to show that he's going to be a great fit for New Orleans. He will fit right in with the type of passion that the fan base brings to the table. He has just as much passion for the quarterback position, and he's going to bring a lot of additional media attention. Don't you love that for the New Orleans Saints? That's
We
just
have
exactly
enough
what they need.
media attention as it is. It's called 3 years of Dennis Allen screwing up. I don't need any more of this. All right,
All
let's
right.
let's let's move on. This is outrageous. All right,
All right. The Chicago Bears are on the clock.
the Chicago Bears have made their selection and are walking up to the podium. With the 10th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Chicago Bears select Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. Now, I had I had Mimbo as my pick for the Bears at 10 because I thought surely you would have had Warren already selected. But when you took Mimbo, I was like, okay, fine, take him because getting Tyler Warren still fits into Ben Johnson's mo of his treating the remaking of this offense as his manifest destiny. And Mimbo offered would have proved as a solution to that. You know what? Tyler Warren will as well. Tyler Warren can line up on the line. He can throw a quick block, and then he can make some noise in open space. So congratulations, Ben Johnson. You got a talented tight end. One in the mold of Brock Bowers. Maybe he can do the same thing in Chicago.
That's bold for you to say he's going to be in the mold of Brock Bowers. With the 10th overall pick, he better be.
Wait,
But
hold on a
I,
second. Wait. Hold on. You just reached deep down into your bag of trash and selected a quarterback in the top 10, and I'm bold for selecting a
yes,
player who is 8 times as highly rated as the guy that you selected for my New Orleans Saints. No, no, sir. You don't get to
yes.
speak. You don't get to speak on these matters. You don't know.
I don't know what to tell you. I disagree with I'm not disagreeing with your pick. I'm
Oh, now you
disagreeing
have
with
a
your
problem with
view.
picks. Now you have a problem. Now's the time that you have an issue. Okay.
Yes, I have an issue with your stance on your pick. Yes. All right. Well, moving on. The San Francisco 49ers are on the clock with the 11th overall pick. And the pick is in. Surprisingly,
Yeah, I don't know why it
we
takes
should
them
cut
three
the
hours to do round one.
Yeah, I
This
was
is
gonna say
wow.
why do they need 10 minutes to make their pick? We're making great time. You know what that sound means? That sound means the pick is in. And for the San Francisco 49ers, a new era begins where they will draft Calvin Banks Jr., offensive
Wow.
lineman, offensive tackle out of Texas. Yes, you have griped and griped and griped and griped about how the San Francisco 49ers are going to be putting Trent Williams on workload management this year. And when what better time to transition into your next great offensive lineman than to draft him while you have Trent Williams still a little bit on one leg or two, one and a half legs. So San Francisco 49ers need to start rebuilding that line. That seems to have been the mantra for the last few years that they got to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship. They started with having a dominant offensive line, and they need to start rebuilding that line. They've lost a lot of pieces. Really, they've lost a lot of pieces across the board. But starting with rebuilding your offensive line by taking an offensive tackle that's going to dominate seems like a really good place to start for them. I don't. I'd be shook if you have any issues with this pick, JB.
I mean, only that I mean, there's nothing wrong with Kelvin Banks, but I mean, Tyler Booker's still out there, and if you're looking for a backup to someone that can eventually place Trent Williams, Josh Simmons. I mean, I look this draft is loaded with depth, but not
Yep.
it's on the offensive line. It's loaded with depth, but no really surefire left tackles. So
Correct.
you really, I mean, look, nothing wrong with Kelvin Banks. I think you do great on the inside. I don't see him transitioning to tackle, maybe right tackle, but I mean, look, getting an O lineman is not a bad thing. Being able to shore up your lineman is not bad at all. It's not. So I don't. I with with the with the position, I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with it. And look, it's a coin
You have an
toss.
issue with the player for the position,
I mean, it's really a
but
coin toss between Josh Simmons or Tyler Booker or Kelvin Banks. It's a toss up. Yeah, I mean, like I said, look, at this point it'd just be nitpicking. I'm
yeah,
splitting hairs at this point. So um, this brings me to number 12. Don't hit the button yet. I have Okay, I have a prelude. So
Okay.
I went into this prep thinking surely my co-host, my buddy, my friend would have already selected this individual based off now because of who he picked for the New Orleans Saints. I thought this player would have been gone already. So I picked a
Okay.
completely different player.
Okay.
But knowing how bad Dallas is when Dak Prescott has to lead your team to anything other
How
than,
dare you?
heartbreak and despair, the Dallas Cowboys are changing their pick. And look, they are walking up to the podium with their selection. With the 12th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Ashton Janty, running back,
Oh.
Boise State. So I had, and look, this is how much I care about your team, and you just crap on mine. So I had Matthew Golden going here. I had the
Yeah.
receiver from Texas going to
Yep.
Dallas, staying in state, playing in front of a
Yep.
hometown crowd. But we all know just how miserable that ground game was for Dallas. Just how
It's
laughably atrocious. Until before last year, I thought Rico Dowdle was a tool that I have yet to master. I didn't know that was a person. No one knew that was a person. So Dallas is able to get a running back in the vein of a Zeke Elliott, but they don't have to pick so high to get him. And they can
mm-hmm.
rest easy knowing that, okay, we waited. Okay, he's here. This is the perfect storm of a position of need and best player available. And it just merged. So
Yeah.
that's why Dallas gets Janty.
So when your comments are giving me a feeling that you were hoping that the Saints would draft Ashton Genty. Is that
No,
how what? No,
no,
okay. I was gonna
no,
say there's if that's what you're getting at, I don't see why you're getting at that. I mean, like I said, Ashton Genty, if it wasn't for the Raiders taking him, I wasn't sure where he was gonna land. I would have probably expected him to not fall past the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't put anything past the Dallas Cowboys. They would probably reach for some offensive tackle to replace Zach Martin at this point. I, if Ashton Genty's there for the Dallas Cowboys, it makes a lot of sense for them to take him. Now, will
yeah.
they do that? That's the question to be had. But you've done me. I done you dirty apparently, and you have done me clean because I am
Well,
happy with the.
what do
I'm
you
happy
care?
with the pick.
What do you care about what you do with my heart? You don't care. This is
I
my
really
heart.
thought you were gonna be. I thought you were gonna be able to see some light at the end of the tunnel with Shador Sanders going to the Saints. I misread you completely.
Look, I don't have an issue. Look, I'm just saying the Saints have not selected a quarterback in the first round since 1971 when Archie Manning was drafted by the Saints. That's the last time. Okay? And I'll
Yeah.
be I'll be damned if somebody that I'm not sold on is going to be the quarterback select. The Saints reach too much as it is. They do this too much. Too much. Yes, it worked out for the Falcons last year because Cousins turned out to have knees made of paper mache, and so Michael Penix Jr. came in there and was all pentatonics. But that doesn't mean it's going to work every single time. It's not.
I- it's a need. It's a position of need. But we are long gone. We are long gone from talking about the Saints. So let's move on to our great, great team that we can both of you and I can agree is borderline dumpster fire of an organization because the Miami Dolphins are on the clock. And their pick is surprisingly already in.
Wow. Yes.
We don't mess around here, JB. Remind our viewers that we know what we're doing, so we don't mess around and take 10 minutes to
At
write a
least we're
name on a piece
confident
of
in our
paper.
ignorance. Oh, that's how smart we go.
With the 13th overall pick, Miami will take the best available player for a position that could be a position of need, depending on who you ask. They shall be drafting Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall.
Okay.
When it comes to the Miami Dolphins, when it comes to Marshall, Marshall's like an athletic pass rusher. The Miami Dolphins need some sort of explosiveness on their defensive line. With him sitting there, trying to maybe catch him before necessarily another team jumps him is going to be, I think, something that they need to keep an eye on. But if he falls to them, I think it would behoove them to take him, even though technically it's not a position of need. It just makes sense for you to take a good player if the player comes falls to you. It's very similar to the approach you took with the Dallas Cowboys and Ashton Denty.
Yeah.
If you see a player that is going to make an impact on your team, you take him, and I think that's the type of player Mike Green's going to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like again, splitting hairs. Could have won Mike Green. Could have won Shamar Stewart. I think this is the opposite of the O lineman. I think this draft, like the O lineman, it's loaded with depth, but unlike the O lineman, I think there are more surefire picks on as edge rushers and along the
Mm-hmm.
D line in this draft. So yeah, good pick, great pick, no problem with it. All right,
Nice. We have finally have an agreement on your side. On
okay,
the clock,
are the
Indianapolis Colts.
Indianapolis Colts. And what do you know? Wow, they're ready to pick. With the 14th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Colston Loveland, tight end, Michigan. This is a team that is still trying to find an identity at quarterback. We don't know if it's Anthony Richardson. I don't know if he's still taking his nap. Maybe it's Danny Dimes. Maybe he comes in. I actually don't mind the Daniel Jones signing for Indianapolis. We've seen what he can do with a competent squad in front of him. So, and I'm not saying Indy is competent, but with what they accomplished with Anthony Richardson at the helm, maybe you could expect a little bit more if Daniel Jones was back there. I don't know. I think it's a good fit though. I think the quarterback room is in a good place because you have somebody who can step in if A Rich decides I need a nap. Um, but Colston Loveland, this is absolutely a position of need for them. This
Mm-hmm.
this provides this this is like a dual pick. Colston Loveland, not only does he provide uh, production in open space, but just like Tyler Warren, he provides that little extra protection on the line as well. So anytime they're trying to run the ball, anytime they're doing an RPO, whatever it is, a delay, if he's there, he can provide it. I think this is a solid pick. This is a good pick for Indianapolis. And if I'm a Colts fan, it's not sexy, but you know, it's a
But
it's
it
a
makes
decent
sense.
pick.
Yeah, that's the thing about the position that the Indianapolis Colts are in. When it comes to a quarterback and a development of quarterback, it's always a known thing that you can say a quarterback's best friend is a tight end because it's the biggest player, for the most part, the biggest player on the field, and they're always running down the middle, right in front of the eyes of the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, which is in some opinions, struggling to kind of develop a little bit with how to read an offense. Having a big bodied tight end that's going to be in front of his face and he can easily spot him out is going to be a good developmental tool
Mm-hmm.
for him. And if it ends up being that Daniel Jones is the starter, Daniel Jones has had a problem with uh, taking deep shots and ultimately causing turnovers that ended up costing him his job in New York
Yeah.
as a Giant. If you have again a big tight end I think he kind of embraced that a little bit with the Giants as well. I forget who the starting tight end was for the Giants, but he seemed to embrace that that tight end position as a comfort zone for him. So regardless of who you have as a starting quarterback, having a big bodied tight end for that quarterback to really have a dump off or an
Mhm.
explosive player in the middle of the field, it'll help with the cohesiveness of your offense. So I actually had Indianapolis Colts taking whichever tight end was available at their position as well.
Yeah, and look, and it. You remember Daniel Jones succeeded because Saquon was healthy, and so Indianapolis um, has Jonathan Taylor. So it's not as if I mean it's a drop off, but it's not something where it's like okay, well, we don't have a running game. You have a
Right.
solid back there.
Yeah, you
Um,
do. All right. Moving on to the 15th overall pick. The Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. And wait a minute. That sound means the pick is in. That easy. The Atlanta Falcons have made their selection. With the 15th overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons have selected Jaden Barron,
oh,
corner out of Texas.
okay.
Atlanta had, I believe, Atlanta has a few spots of need. There is some questions about their offensive power, but they have a lot of key positions. So if you have a lot of key positions on the offensive side that you just need to develop and find a way to work together, then you start building on your defense. And a solid place to start is having a shutdown corner that you can ensure that at least a quarter of your field or the half of the field is going to be protected and it's not going to be giving away free deep passes. I think that's what Jaden Barron brings to the Atlanta Falcons. I think that he fits a position of need. They need to develop their defense to make sure that they can keep up with the moments where their offense kind of sputters. And like I said, a corner is a really good place to start when it comes to making sure that your defense doesn't have these major gaps in the deep threat. So Jaden Barron, corner, goes to Atlanta.
If you're gonna pick corner, I'm surprised you didn't get Will Johnson. So
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I
mm,
like I like based off of how and maybe this was more of a systematic thing. Maybe I'm giving Texas as an overall too much credit or giving Jaden Barron too much credit for what Texas looked like. But Texas had a dominant defense last year. For those people that don't remember, a lot of the reason that Texas was staying in a lot of the games was because of their defense. They were able to
yeah.
shut down a lot of the explosiveness on the teams that were on the other side. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'm reading too much into it and giving Jaden Barron too much credit for that, but he seemed to me that he played a key role into making sure that that defense was as stellar as it was. That's why I went there.
Okay. All right. 16. Arizona Cardinals. Oh, look at that. They're ready. With the 16th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, Arizona Cardinals select Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State. So, Arizona's got they have an okay line. I think they absolutely are another lineman away from being upgraded from okay to good. And so
Yep.
this is again need. This is one of the best players available. In order just in terms of where the greatest need is, and so Arizona, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle.
Yeah, Arizona needs some offensive line protection, especially with if they're going to stick around with their quarterback. If they're going to keep that small-bodied quarterback as their starter, they need to make sure that they solidify that line to make sure he doesn't have to
Yeah,
be scrambling for his life. I mean, Kyler Murray makes his money being able to scramble around, but if you can develop him, and I still call me crazy, but I still think Kyler Murray is in the development phase of his career. If you can develop him into being a pocket passer, not necessarily having to rely on his legs, and he can be comfortable in the pocket. That would be a good step in the right direction for Arizona. So yeah, that I had them taking an offensive lineman as well or a receiver, but it makes sense for them to take an offensive lineman, just like I said, to make sure that Kyler Murray doesn't have to be running around for his life every single play. Moving on, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and they are ready for their pick. With the 17th overall pick in the Box Scores and Bourbon Mock Draft 2.0, the Cincinnati Bengals will select James Pierce Jr., edge rusher out of Tennessee.
Okay. I
With
actually so like James Pierce is one of those freaks. He's like he's like a um uh in the same projectable level of Jalen Walker. I mean, if James Pierce can stay healthy, that's a sneaky good pick. I like that pick.
yeah, especially with the we all saw what the Cincinnati Bengals were last year, where the offense was very explosive, but their defense just couldn't stop a cold, couldn't stop a nosebleed, and couldn't stop anything else that had any type of flow to it. They need some pieces on the defensive side, and it's a good place to start by taking a player that's going to cause some havoc um, with the defensive lineman. So taking an edge rusher makes sense for them, especially with Hickerson not necessarily knowing what the future of him is going to be with that organization. Start picking some younger players that you don't necessarily have to overpay for, and you can have them on rookie contracts and develop them. So that's my reasoning for that.
Did you say Pickerson?
Hickers, what's his name?
Trey
No, I
Henderson?
didn't say
Trey
Henderson. Oh
Hendrickson?
my gosh,
Trey Hendrickson.
Henderson. I said
Okay.
Hickerson.
Say, who is Pickerson? I don't know this. I don't know this
Henderson.
person. I don't know him.
Maybe
Sounds
I
like
need
a
to
nice
put
enough
my
guy.
whiskey down. Put my whiskey down.
Sounds like a nice enough guy. All right.
I know the guy.
The
All
Seahawks
right.
are walking up to the podium to select with the 18th pick. With the 18th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Will Johnson, corner
Ooh.
from Michigan. Now, I'm surprised as anybody that Will Johnson's still on the board. If you ask
Hmm.
me who I would have wanted the Saints to pick at 9, it's Will Johnson. If Tator McMillan's not there, then Will Johnson all the way. Go get him. Um, but with the Seahawks, they need to rebuild that secondary. Devin Witherspoon is the only one under contract beyond 2025 as the only corner. So being able to bring in a guy who I know Mike McDonald would love to have, being being a defensive minded guy, bring him in, shore up that secondary. We all saw what the young corners in Philly did last year with Quinyon and Cooper, being able to now have another young corner who can be a shutdown guy in the NFL. Bring him to Seattle, see what they can do.
Yeah, I'm surprised you went there. I had them going a completely different direction with the Seahawks getting rid of Metcalf. I really thought you were gonna have them take a receiver to replace that I think major gap that they have in. I'm not necessarily seeing a very deep wide receiver class this year for the you to be able to say we can wait for a wide receiver to drop down in a lower picks or trade in or a second round pick
I
that you're
think
going to
there's
be impressed
enough.
by.
I think there's enough depth. I think if you look at
They did not look very efficient as it is.
who Seattle.
The Seahawks.
Well, look, I mean,
Yeah.
look. Sam Darnold's there. He's got Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's not nothing, So they still have pieces there, and I think this draft is deep enough at receiver that you can get a guy in the second or third round and bring him in and be able to play ball with Darnold.
Okay. I mean, agree to disagree. I see a major hole in their wide receiver room, but maybe you're giving Njigba a whole lot of credit that I'm not seeing. I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he's a really good receiver, but he's can't. From what I saw, he's not a number one receiver that Metcalf is or was. That I think they, in my opinion, they need to replace that deficiency. But hey, this is your pick. This is your pick, and I'm not gonna question you or make you feel like you made the wrong pick, a la New Orleans Saints picks in '09 overall. Moving on, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock, and they are ready for their pick. Now, with the 19th overall pick, Tampa Bay will be selecting Jaden Barron.
You already picked Barron.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I promise you I didn't. I promise you I. Oh, I did pick
You
Jaden
picked him
Barron.
for Atlanta.
Oh, I'm looking at my wrong list. I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jihad Campbell. I was looking at the
What?
wrong line.
You can't. How's that gonna work?
Jihad, Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama, is the pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I've crossed out all the names. Like I've already seen who you picked.
I have them all selected too. I'm like, no, I don't see him. I was looking at my wrong line. John Campbell, linebacker. Tampa Bay needs to be finding their defensive prowess, and linebacker position is where you should really start if you need a play caller on the defensive side. I kind of like, call me crazy, I kind of like what Tampa has going on. The offense, if they're healthy, they seem to work really well when like I said, when they stay healthy. They need to get some linebacker help. Jihad Campbell seems to be a good fit for them to start that solidifying of that defensive back seven. So that's where I'm going to go with Jihad Campbell, not Jaden Barron.
That's crazy. Okay.
All right. Next up, JB, you are up.
Okay. This one was probably the hardest that I had to choose from, only because of
Really?
where they sit at 20 and um, where they sit at 20 and they there are players available. I'm just not certain which way to go. So I'm usually
Uh-huh.
pretty certain about which way I think a team should go. Um, and I settled on this pick. And the pick is going to change now, but the position stays the same. Only
Okay.
because this player is still available. So the Denver Broncos are walking up with their selection. With the 20th pick in the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Denver Broncos select Shamar Stewart, edge rusher, Texas A&M. So
Wow.
I I had Mikel Williams going to the Broncos because I thought Shamar would have surely been gone by now. Now I know what Bronco fans are saying. Our defense is solid. It's only going to get better. Why would we add more? Because it never hurts to have depth on that line. The more depth
Mm-hmm.
you can have, there's never been. I've never heard anybody say my marriage is great, so I'm just going to stop trying. No, like no. If you have a great defense, build on that defense. Build on it. I know we're all excited about Bo Nix. Bo Nix probably over exceeded expectations his first year, and which is not a bad thing, but that could come down a level. But what could help cover that up is being able to have an unstoppable defense. And we remember
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl, but it wasn't Peyton Manning that won that. It was Von Miller in that defense. They won that Super Bowl. So strengthen the a part of you that's already really, really, really strong, and add some depth to it. Bring Shamar Stewart in there. Have him rotate in and out, and just really just try to just get his breath in the NFL, and just I mean, if you can get a guy like Shamar Stewart in your team, and you can keep him somewhat fresh, that's not a bad thing at all. And it's only going to strengthen an already really strong unit. So Shamar Stewart.
I like it. I like what the Denver Broncos have been building. I somehow have jumped onto the ship of Sean Payton, what he has going on with Denver. There was some sputters in the offensive side last year with Bo Nix, but if you're going to solidify your defense, that's a good place to put another solid piece into there. So I can't get mad about that. Now my next pick on the clock are the Pittsburgh
This
Steelers,
is where Shador
and
would
this
look
is the
great.
pick.
Pick him again. Pick Shador Sanders again.
That would make a lot of sense. I don't believe Shador Sanders would, in any mock draft, fall all the way down to 21.
He
I
actually has.
honestly, I honestly don't even think the Pittsburgh Steelers would sit at this 21 position. But for the sake of our mock draft, they will sit put, and we're gonna assume that they figured out what their quarterback room is gonna look like. But with our draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. They've sat on their pick. They have not traded down, and they did not trade up to draft a quarterback. That means that their pick is in. With the 21st overall pick in the Box Scores and Bourbon 2.0 mock draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers will be selecting Walter Nolan,
Ooh, nice.
defensive tackle out of Ole Miss.
You took another one of my
With
picks.
TJ Watt as a, did I steal another one of your picks?
Yep.
With TJ Watt as a established pass rusher, bringing in a piece like Nolan, which is more of a flexible position. I'm not gonna go as far as saying he's online with Micah Parsons when it comes to like the diversity in his position availability, but he gives hints of that kind of flexibility where he can move around, he can play coverage. He's really good at rushing the passer, putting pressure on that line, putting pressure on that quarterback. It seems to make sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take a really good piece to add to that already really good solidified defense, the really good solidified defensive line. Take everything that you just said when it comes to the Denver Broncos, adding more pieces on the defensive side because you can't have enough of them, and add that to why the Pittsburgh Steelers will select Walter Nolan with their pick in the first draft or in
Okay.
the first round.
All right. I mean, Pittsburgh is
Uh,
synonymous with defense. So,
That yeah,
yeah.
they are. They are very synonymous with defense. They have embodied the persona of who cares who's hiking the ball and who's under center. We will win these games one defensive play at a time.
Well, they have made that very apparent. They do not care who's throwing the football.
All right, JB, you're on the clock with Los Angeles Chargers.
The Los Angeles Chargers are walking up with their selection. In the 2025, with the 22nd pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Luther Burden III, wide receiver from
Oh,
Missouri. We all know what Jim Harbaugh did with LA in his first year there. Really surprised a lot of people, not me, but he absolutely cleaned house when he got there. And although Justin Herbert had a good season, it was by far his best statistical one. And part of that is because there were really no surefire guys for him to throw to. Luther Burden III is one of those freaks on the outside. This dude is going to make some unbelievable catches. They will be uncontested. They will be contested. They will be delicious. and they will be downright scary for the defense that he does it against. Luther Burden is going to be someone who is going to help elevate Justin Herbert's game to a new level and bring some comfort and a security blanket that Justin Herbert desperately needs.
I like it. I'm surprised that you went there when it comes to the specific player, but it makes sense for them to take that position in need. I already voiced, I think I voiced my opinion a lot on what the Chargers need. They got rid of just about every wide receiver they had and then decided that that was good enough to run the season with. They ended up making the playoffs, so maybe I know nothing and Jim Harbaugh knows everything. But they do need to start addressing that wide receiver room soon enough. So like I said, I don't disagree with the position need. Maybe there's a different player that they could have gone with. On that same note, I'll transition onto the fact that the Green Bay Packers are on the clock, and it looks to me like they're already at the podium, ready to go. With the 23rd overall pick in the 2025 Box Scores and Bourbon mock draft, Green Bay selects. Maybe I missed this marking him down. I'm surprised if he's still on the board. Green Bay selects Matthew Golden, wide receiver, out of Texas.
He's still available. That's who I originally had for Dallas, but Janty was
I was
available.
waiting for you to say that I missed
Yeah.
marking one of my players off, but I'm
Yeah.
surprised that he's still on the board, and it's almost like a little present wrapped up for them. There's already been conversations or gripes about how the Green Bay Packers needed more explosiveness in the wide receiver room. We I thought they had a young wide receiver room that was going to be explosive, and they just needed some time within the season to develop. That didn't seem to play off that well, especially after Watson got Watson. Yeah, Watson got hurt,
Mhm.
and they really didn't look anything like they should have at that point. So starting to draft more young pieces, getting a deeper wide receiver room makes sense for the Green Bay Packers. If you're not happy with the wide receiver room, you might as well be addressing it in the draft because that's the best place to address it. So yeah, Green Bay Packers taking a wide receiver out of Texas. Maybe, hopefully, he gets accustomed to the cold weather, but that makes sense for them to take another wide receiver for that very, very young wide receiver room.
Yeah. Um, the Vikings are walking up with their selection. With the 24th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Tyler Booker, guard, Alabama. So this is a tricky one because you mentioned earlier you could see uh, who was it? Would you say you saw the Jaguars trading out? Is that who it was you saw? Or I forgot who it was. But this is a team I can see trading out of the first round because they have
Mm-hmm.
four picks, four, and there's two. I mean, there's loads of work to be. They did a lot of work on the defensive side of the ball, which is great, but there's still more work to be done. This is, but for the purpose of this mock draft, they stay here. They take Tyler Booker. They need a guard. They need a left guard. They need someone on the offensive line. And look, you got JJ McCarthy there now. You got to try to keep this young man upright, keep him healthy. I hope he doesn't panic too much. So being able to shore up again the offensive line with arguably the best guard prospect in the draft, this should be able to be a pick that if they don't trade out, that they can be happy with.
Yeah, are you sure you don't mean like Aaron Rodgers being back there as a quarterback for the
Oh,
Minnesota
how dare you?
Vikings? They're
That's no, no, no. That's no.
Hey, he's not signed anywhere, and the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to be have left gotten left hang out to dry. So maybe he's waiting for the Vikings to say, you know what, we'll take you. But I'm just putting a little quarter into the machine of possibilities.
I see what you're doing.
But I do. Yeah, I'm glad you see. I want everything that I do to be noticed and appreciated. So thank you. That being said, we are on to the 25th pick in the NFL draft with the Houston Texans on the clock. Oh, look at that. They're already at the podium, ready to select their next generational talent. Who is that going to be? They will be
Who
based
they?
off of the position of need. I'm caveating this. Based off of the position of need, they traded away their aging offensive linemen, so they need to fill that gap. Maybe this isn't the player that they were hoping fell to them, but in my draft, I'm going to have the Houston Texans draft Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State to fill that gap with the offensive line with Tols. Who is that they traded away? Is it? I can't remember who they traded away. Ultimately, they need to replace that position of need, and I think they'll. I'm not very satisfied with this pick. I will caveat that by saying I'm not very satisfied with this pick. I think there's a little bit of a reach, but I think
Why
that's
are you
what they're going to be
stalling?
doing. I think I mean, it's just I'm not very happy with it, but I feel like the Houston Texans are going to reach to try finding a stabilizing force in the offensive side, and I think Gray Zabel being the next best available player for that position of need is going to be who they take, whether it pays off or not. Ultimately, I think it's going to be a reach, but I think that's what they should do based off of how the draft has gone.
That's not a bad pick. I mean, he's in in one projection. He's listed as the 32nd best player in the
Yeah,
draft. That's you went from you took the number 9 pick and picked the 34th ranked player, and you're
I knew
afraid
you were going to throw that in my face.
that a team picking 25th is going to have a problem going to the 32nd rated player. Are you kidding
I
me?
knew you were
Are you
going to
kidding
hold that
me?
against me forever.
Of course I am. Oh, good lord. Ridiculous.
Whatever. I stand by what I said.
No, I know you do.
All right. JB, you have both LA teams. The Rams are on the clock.
Yes. Um, with the 26th pick, the Rams are on the clock and they are thinking real quick. They are taking a moment
They're thinking.
to consider their options.
Well, if we're
Um,
operating by real life rules, you have about 30 minutes to make your pick. So take your time. There's no rush. The Rams made the playoffs last year. They gave the Eagles a run for their money, and they seem to just be a one mishap play in the playoffs to dethrone the Eagles as the Super Bowl champs. They could have knocked them out before I had to go through that misery. So there's something to build on, but I am curious to see where you think they need to build on because there's definitely some glaring positions that they need to draft on, especially when it comes to taking young players to kind of start replacing their aging players. If I dare say that they're aging, considering the aging players are my age.
yeah. Um, okay. The Los Angeles Rams are walking up at their selection. With the 26th pick in the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Nick Emenwari, safety from South Carolina. So I went back and forth with this one. So the Rams need an off um uh uh, uh it, I'm sorry. I was choking on something. The Rams need an off-ball linebacker but without any real kind. I mean, we have edge rushers, but I'm not. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with Michael Williams or um, uh, Izraku here from Boston College. Uh, they are also losing three of their top defensive backs next season. Like they have nobody locked down beyond next season, and so being able to have um, a safety who kind of plays like a corner. You can absolutely slot him into a nickel, but I didn't think he would be available by the time we got here, so I didn't pick him. But looking at it now, looking at the options available, Emin Wari seems to be a pretty solid pick for them. Like I said, he's got solid size, and so being able to plug him back there in the backfield, and then again, if you need to, kind of shift him over to nickel, kind of see how he plays the corner position, and see if you can maybe try to shift him over on the outside if you need to.
Yeah, like I was saying, there's some positions of need for the Rams that you kind of need to address to have some depth. Maybe he can sneak himself into a starting position, but I mean, I don't have anything against the where you're having the Rams go. There's just there's you could, like you said, you could be nitpicking when it comes to certain positions or players that are available in the draft. But if you address a position in need for the Rams, I think they're in the right direction. You just need to continue to draft players that fit your offensive system or your defensive system in this case, and just develop them slowly. And hopefully, my thing with the Rams is, like I said, they're quite young across the board. Besides Matthew Stafford, they have a lot of young players, and hopefully those young players from last year can develop and allow for players like Nick Iminwari to just kind of sit back and learn and not necessarily be put on the spotlight. But yeah, I don't have any issues with your pick. Who I do have issues with is the next pick, because I am on the clock,
You
or
picked
shall
it.
I say, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock. They Before they walk up to the podium, I have to say I am very torn with what the Baltimore Ravens actually need. Do they actually need pieces, or do they need to find a way to use their pieces? Because every year they add really good pieces, and you and I have sat here just about every month during the season and say the Baltimore Ravens have everything they need to be able to make the AFC Championship and even the Super Bowl. And yet every year we have the same conversation after the fact that somehow they were not able to pull it through, and somehow they're missing yet another piece. So, with that being said, the Baltimore Ravens are on the podium ready to make their selection. With the 27th overall pick, the Baltimore Ravens will select Michael Williams,
Ah, you son of a bitch.
defensive lineman out of Marshall. and, and this is just as the rest of the pieces in my opinion, from 27 to 32. All these pieces are going to be project pieces where we're not necessarily expecting them to jump right in to be starters day one. Michael Williams is, in my opinion, a developmental piece. He needs some grooming. He comes from Marshall, where you can take that as a at face value, whether that's a good or a bad thing. But like I was saying before the pick, the Ravens don't necessarily need pieces, but if Michael Williams falls to them and they can see some good in allowing him to develop, it could be a very good addition to their depth on the defensive side. So Michael Williams going to them, if they don't have to rush him, makes sense for him to be able to be a standout player on that side of the ball.
Wait, you picked Michael Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia? You said
Yes.
okay. You said Marshall, and I was
Did I say
like, wait,
Marshall?
is there someone I'm missing?
No, 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 yeah, you're
Okay.
right.
Okay.
I did say Marshall, but I
I
meant
was looking
Georgia.
for a
I was
Michael
looking at a
Williams from
different line
Marshall.
on my.
I'm like, where's this guy?
No, Georgia. I was
Okay.
looking at. I was looking at the wrong line on my stuff, but yeah, out of Georgia.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Well, with the
You get a
28th
really
pick,
exciting pick.
the 28th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Detroit Lions are approaching the podium. With the 28th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Detroit Lions select Donovan Ezeraku, edge rusher from Boston College. So this one, I had Malachi Starks going there first. And that's only because, I love how much Detroit loves their SEC DBs back there. But Detroit needs another edge rusher on the other end of Aiden Hutchinson. Marcus Davenport, he does well enough, but he's been in the league 8 years and he has not performed anywhere near close to his potential. So, nothing wrong with having Marcus Davenport, but being able to have him as a rotational player and then having Donovan Ezeraku there to be able to kind of be molded in the way of an Aiden Hutchinson, it's not a bad thing. And look, Dan Campbell was a tight end, but this man loves to beat down a quarterback. He loves to beat down an offense. Uh, so this, I mean, Dan Campbell was born in the wrong positional body. Okay, he should have been a linebacker, but he was born a tight end. He was assigned tight end at birth, and so now he's got to live out this lie. No, he's but being able to get Donovan Ezeraku there and be able to shore up that line, that edge rusher, and give Aiden another young guy to kind of mold in the way of how he plays.
All right, can't complain. The biggest thing I can complain about that pick is that maybe I will mispronounce his name 4 times before I get it right. But, but moving on, the Washington Commies, as you have embraced the only way you can say their name, are on
Yes.
the clock and they are ready for their pick. The Washington Commanders have heard what you have said about the Detroit Lions, and they will follow your advice, and they will be drafting Malachi Starks out of Georgia, defensive back, safety, whatever you want to call him, to add to their Washington stellar defense
Who did you
that
pick?
got Starks, Malachi Starks.
Malachi Starks. Okay.
Yeah. So based off of what we saw from Washington and their immaculate run to the NFC Championship, there was still some glaring issues when it comes to their defensive side. By having Malachi Starks fall all the way down to them out of Georgia, like I already harped on, Georgia has a really good program in place to develop the defensive players. You can't go wrong with drafting a Georgia player. Adding a player from Georgia to the Washington defense will give them the opportunity to not necessarily be as vulnerable to the type of, what do I call it? What do I call the NFC Championship? Manslaughter, obliteration, something, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, if you want to keep pace with if Washington wants to keep pace with what the Philadelphia Eagles have done and their chokehold that they have put on that conference and or that division, you want to make sure that you can stop them their offensive power. So adding Malachi Starks as a defensive prowess on the back end of your defense makes sense for them to keep pace with the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's why I'm going with a safety for Washington as their 29th overall pick.
Okay. I like it. I mean, look, uh, Malachi Starks is a talented DB. and it's
Yeah.
a shame that he's still on the board at pick 29. So, but
Yep.
I mean, we said the same thing about Aaron Rodgers. He went all the way into the 24th pick. So, um, a
Are
lot
you
of
comparing Aaron Rodgers to
I'm comparing
Malachi Stark?
talent and potential to it. Okay, I'm not comparing the two. Hmm.
Okay, I'm just making sure because we've had a lot of
I've
players
seen
that have
Malachi
slipped out.
Stark smoke peyote like Aaron Rodgers does. Okay, they're the same person. No, I've never seen Malachi Starks ever. I have no idea what he does in his off time, but we
What
all
he
know what
does or
Aaron
doesn't
Rodgers
smoke.
does because he decided to take a camera crew inside the Indian tent and show us with the big long pipe. Okay, with
All right, you're up, JB.
with the 30th pick, the Buffalo Bills are now approaching the podium. With the 30th pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Buffalo Bills select Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, Oregon. This is a guy that I really didn't know where to place, but with all of the defensive line issues that are currently going on in Buffalo, especially with Ogunjobi and Hawk facing 6 game suspensions this season. And then even after this year, you got Daquan, you got AJ, and you got Joey Bosa all on expiring contracts. Um, they need help on the defensive end. And I've always been a big believer in you building from the inside out. And there's no better way to begin that than to be able to draft a disruptor to build around on that side of the ball. And with no surefire linebacker here to really, in the mold of, to kind of, really take the place of uh, of Epinesa or Bosa, um, Derek Harmon seems to be the guy right here for the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, I mean, I fully agree with you. I've already mentioned how I feel like the Buffalo Bills need to continue to add pieces, especially on their defensive line, to make sure that they can keep up and shut down, you know, the three-time Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes and the Baltimore Ravens that seem to have everything but their scheme figured out on their offensive side. So Buffalo, if they want to get over the hump, they need to start embracing more of a punch you in the face kind of defensive approach, and that's a good place to go with
Yeah.
that pick. So next, my last pick, unfortunately, the Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock, and they're ready to go. The Kansas City Chiefs, with the 31st overall pick, will be selecting Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M, defensive lineman. Here is my reasoning for why I think they should draft him. We already know what the Kansas City Chiefs can do on the offensive side. And somehow, one way or another, you can give Mahomes or Andy Reid any type of credit or all the credit for making that offense go as well as they do. We have seen that last year that their defense really carried them primarily to the Super Bowl, whether ignoring the fact that they got obliterated in the Super Bowl itself. But if you already can see that your defense is what can carry you to a Super Bowl again, then maybe you should continue to add pieces that can strengthen that side of the ball. And Nick Skirton seems to fit that role. Out of Texas A&M, I can't say that you know, I didn't see too many Texas A&M games or really any Texas A&M games throughout the college football season, but based off of the position of need, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs should get some depth on that side of the ball to make sure that they can continue to rely on their defensive line and the defensive side of the ball to make sure that their offense doesn't have to completely carry their team in the 2025-2026 season. So Nick Skirton, defensive lineman, Texas A&M, is now a Kansas City Chief.
For someone who like hates reaching, my goodness,
No, that's not a reach.
that he's like a he's projected to go second or third round. Like if there
Mm-mm.
was, if you're looking for an edge
Not in
rusher,
my book.
if you're looking for an edge rusher, uh, uh, Tua Malau, from Ohio State,
Nope.
that dude is that dude's a beast. That dude is fun to
Nope.
watch.
I have Nick Skirton out of
You're out there
Texas
taking
A&M
Nick
ranked
Scrotums.
28th. Nick Scrotums. I have him ranked 28th. He's the best left edge rusher on my board when it comes to overall prospects. So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what coin flip rankings you chose, but on my books, he's the best left option.
All right. Well, whatever. I don't care. It'll help the Chiefs lose. Okay.
Doubt you.
The last pick. Philadelphia Eagles are approaching the podium. With the
Can I start booing
32nd,
and start flipping them off?
with the
Boo!
32nd and last pick of the 2025 NFL BSB mock draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan. This is a team that has lost quite a bit on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not, look, I would never question the great and hallowed name of Howie Roseman ever, but I don't know what's going on that other side of the ball. I don't know. You got Milton Williams is gone, Josh Sweat's gone, CD Deuce is gone.
Slay?
What's
Slay is
that?
gone. Slay is gone. Derek's,
Yeah.
Derek
So
Slay?
like, no, Slay's not gone, is he?
Yeah.
It's okay. But on in the front seven, I don't know what's happening here. Again, Howie Roseman could make a defense out of paper mache and make it as tough as a purple people eater. I've got no doubts. But with this pick, they absolutely take greatest need, best player available, and then they mash it together. Their greatest need actually is in the secondary, but I'm not gonna have him reach for somebody named like Nick Scrotum. So he's gonna he Howie Roseman's gonna stay within his wheelhouse, and he's gonna take Kenneth Grant. And no disrespect to Nick Scrotum, I'm messing with your name, buddy. This is really me more attacking Manny than it is attacking you. You just happen to be the subject of the
You're
attack.
still attacking him. You're saying some other player is ranked higher than him. I gave him all the respect he's due, so you're still attacking him.
He's a
It's
grown
not
man.
my.
He's a grown man who lives in reality. He knows he's not. He knows his value. He understands.
Okay. And I think I gave him his true value. I'm just going to say that. I'm surprised he didn't just have Philadelphia draft whatever next best available Georgia player was left. That seems to be their mantra, and they won him a Super Bowl.
No, I don't roll that way. Okay, we need to do
Okay.
one more thing before we go. Okay,
Okay.
we need to pick the position of Mr. Irrelevant. So the
What?
Kansas City Chiefs have the last pick of the draft, number 257. You are going to give me what you believe the position is going to be, and I will give the position as well.
I'm going to go, if it's the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is off the top of my head, just you telling me that the Chiefs are Mr. Irrelevant to pick. I'm going to go with wide receiver.
Okay.
D Hop left. They Xavier Worthy is still there. Like it seems like they're always playing plug and play with the wide receiver room, and maybe they'll just stock up on some wide receivers and hopefully they hit on one that's kind of under the radar and kind of they can plug into with the depth of that wide receiver room. If
Yeah.
Mr. Irrelevant could easily make the 53-man roster at the end of the day.
I was gonna pick wide receiver, but in the spirit of playing contrarian, um, I'm gonna say offensive lineman.
That's like a safe bet. You should have just said wide receiver and said your take on it. It's
No,
easy.
offensive lineman.
It's an easy pick to say offensive lineman.
It's an easy
Come on,
pick to
give me
say
a
any of
break.
them because it's Mr. Irrelevant. Who cares?
Hey, don't you disrespect Brock Purdy like that.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, hey, if anyone understands what disrespect Brock Purdy means, I get it. I get it. The second coming of Joe
we're still
Montana.
we're still on Brock Purdy watch. For those of you tracking, we're still on Brock Purdy watch, and JB's holding his breath until he signs a $100 million contract. No penny more.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up the mock draft, guys. Man, that took forever. Jeez.
Hey, I thought we were hustling, and it still takes a while. I understand why the team's first round goes up until midnight. JB,
Yeah.
quickly, what did you drink?
I was drinking an Old Forester 1897 bottled in bond bourbon.
Ooh, I love Old Forester.
Very,
It's a
very
very
good.
good bottle.
Yeah.
Yes.
What were you drinking?
I. Oh, what were you smoking?
Oh, I was smoking this Connecticut wrapped Alameda. So, not bad. Easy smoke.
Nice. I found this random bottle that I've never seen before, even though I go to the same kind of liquor store for the most part. I bought a Texas pot still bourbon,
Okay.
straight bourbon whiskey. It's pretty good. It's actually
Nice.
very smooth to drink, very neat. Uh, yeah, it was very good. I was skeptical about it just because I hadn't seen the bottle before, but I liked it. I can't complain. I can't
All
complain.
right then.
All right, JB, tell everyone. Find us, interact, listen, see us where.
Watch and listen full episodes, Box Scores and Bourbon on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Additional content at BSB Sports 24 on TikTok, X, and Instagram. And until next time, folks, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone.